Hello everyone, Lana here, and through life most of us go through lots of different jobs. Some jobs that are just really bad and just fucking awful, and some jobs that are really fantastic. And if you're really lucky, you find a job that is fantastic and that you love. Sadly though, that is not what happened with everyone, but I do really hope that everyone do get a chance to work with a place and a job that they love. And everyone finds different jobs enjoyable. Some might find it like working in healthcare being like, yeah, that's not for me, but there are those that do love that. The same thing with working with like environment, working with like road work and stuff like that. Some like the very physical jobs, some like the more menial jobs at a computer office and stuff like that. It is very different what we all enjoy. And what do I enjoy most to do? Honestly, I would say doing these kind of things, because I'm my own kind of boss in a way, because I decide what to make. So this is a different video from my usual content, but I wanted to make this because I want to share you guys what I did before working with YouTube. I did a bunch of different jobs. I worked mainly in different industries here in Sweden, and before I'm ending up here, it really didn't help my mental health, because before I even knew I did have mental health problems, these kind of jobs really didn't help. So it was kind of like a constant downhill spiral, very fast, and it really did fuck me up. So it wasn't really good jobs in general. But I'm gonna go through here and share with you guys what I did work with. And for you, write in the comments, what did you work with before? Have you worked, or if you have worked before? I know some do studies, some are younger, and some do study even if they're adults, because, you know, some jobs really take a long time to study for. And yeah, what have you been working with? What was the worst job you had? And what was your favorite? Or is there a favorite job you would love to have? Write that in the comments, because I'm curious to see what your dream jobs are, because honestly, working with videos, streaming, and writing is my dream jobs. Dude, if I could live on writing or doing this completely, I would be so happy. To be my own boss, well, I guess the only bosses I have is my cats, but, you know, that's a different story, but... But yeah, so write in the comments, and now we're gonna jump into my very first job I ever had. So my very first job I had was 1 week after I ended school, which was when I was 19. Generally in Sweden we go to school until we are 18, which is the gymnasium ending. But I went 1 year extra because I switched program after my first year, because I was bullied and I didn't enjoy that kind of gymnasium, which was car mechanic, which was, to be honest, much kind of like pushed towards by my father. And in the end I did choose graphic design, which I enjoyed way more. Though even if I enjoyed graphic design, that was not the job I got, because I needed to take a job very quickly, because my family was pretty big. My father was on sick leave, so he didn't have a big income. I had 4 younger siblings and I was the oldest, so I took it on me to work, well, to take any job I could find. And the first job I found after 1 week from school was this: rubber compounding. I was working in a local factory close by where I lived, and it was this big factory. And the official title I had was mixer operator, which I was generally at a machine mixing rubber that would become used in car tires, in O-rings, and all other sorts of rubber you can imagine. And it was hell, I will say. It was a very bad place. I mean, the people in general there was pretty good. There was lots of like really amazing dudes there, but also some really crazy ones, and it was a shitty place in that sense that it was so fucking dirty. I'm gonna see if I find a photo. If I do, I will show it here on the video, how I looked after in general. Not always, but in general, after 1 day working there. It was so dirty. It was soft in the air constantly, and I can just fathom how my lungs looked after 4 years working there. Well, 4.5, I think. When the factory actually shut down, because it was a mess and they didn't want to fix all the problems. Instead, they took all the jobs elsewhere, and since I was one of the recent dudes there, they just kind of let me go, and I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm fine with that. But we're gonna show how it looks like. I can already see this is a cutting table, because this big chunk of rubber here is about 25 kilos. 25 to 33 kilos was generally the blocks, but the recipe might say you need 16 kilos of this kind of rubber, synthetic rubber. And then you're using this big blade to cut down, and you just weigh it on a scale. And this looks like a bit more dangerous though than the one we had, because the one we had, at least you needed to push 2 buttons, so you could never have your hands under that blade, because those blades, I can say right away, if you would have your hand under there and it go down, it will go right through, because it doesn't stop for anything. So we're gonna see how this look like. Oh no, where did that go? There we go, back again. Luckily, look at me, I'm a professional YouTuber guy. Oh my sweet babe raptor. So yeah. Yeah. This is a little bit different than that one. I prepared a figure. Yeah, as you can see, it just went through this rubber, and believe me, this rubber is hard. It is just going right through. And yeah, this was the beginning in general. Well, actually weighing up the chemicals. But yeah, oh my god. This was part of what I generally did. As you can see, you're weighing up and getting the right amount you need for that mixture, and every sort of mixture you use, rubber is incredible, and there is after it mixed. They have been mixed with rubber, the different synthetic rubbers, chemicals, soft, and oil. Every different rubber needs different. But you might not think of it, but there are so many different types of rubbers. You have different rubber for like car tires, from the rubber used in like O-rings, and rubber used in cables and stuff. There is so many different types of rubber, because just like steel, you need different, like some that is more heat resistant, some that are more cold, and yeah, there is a shit ton of different kind of like rubbers. Oh man, why do I even remember all of that? Dude, even after... Dude, it was over 10 years since I worked there. I still remember stuff from that. Oh my god. And there you have the mill. Oh, dude. I can say right away, this is scary stuff. Yeah, okay. As you can see... Well, I'm gonna see if we can see it. Yeah, you can see these behind there. These massive mills is 2 big fucking... wheels, massive, heavy as fuck steel wheels that go against each other, because the rubber then goes in there, mixing even further. And as you can see, they have a mini mill up there where the rubber is then going up there, so it's easier and get more mixed. And this, I can see right away, is also a little bit worse than I had because there's no safety bar here. In the one I used, there was a safety bar right over, because if you would get dragged into this, the safety bar you would hit the safety bar with your body and it would turn off. Because there have been accidents with these things, because I was told in the 80s where I worked, a guy had climbed in between to get some rubber that was between the mills, and it was still active, and it snatched his hand and pulled his hand in. And the thing with these mills is that you can't just pull your hand out, because it grinds your hand, and they needed to reverse it. And he lost all his, well, his 4 fingers up there, except the thumb. And yeah, there have been lots of like stories and accidents where people have lost limbs because of this, because they are so strong, it will just go in there. And I can tell you right away, it almost happened to me, and it was a smaller one, because we had 2 mills at my station. Generally, I didn't work there because, as I said, I'm not a milling operator, I was a mixer. But at times, we kind of like jumble around, because if they were eating, someone needs to be there, and then, you know, I could go down there just to support that stuff. And I was working with a small one, and I had a shirt on, you know, and an open button shirt. Generally a simple red shirt, and then an open shirt above that. And the open shirt, you should never have that, because it got stuck into a blade, into the rubber and the mill, and it started pulling me, and instantly I was like my back against it. I got such much panic, and I was just lucky I could reach up, because, you know, when the fabric started to twist, it made it like, ah! And I managed to slam that freaking emergency bar and stop the machine. And after that, I did always button my shirt whenever I worked down in the mill, because, dude, the power in that. I'm a big guy now, and I was a big guy then, but I was pretty much smaller. I have become fatter and older, but even then, there is no chance in hell you have the power to resist that, because the sheer amount of strength is insane. So yeah, so it's mixing the rubber. As you see it becoming more like shiny, it becomes more like vulcanized, stuff like that. Well, the vulcanization haven't happened yet. It's gonna do that afterwards, because it's transferring over to another mill behind there. It's scary how fucking identical it is to where I worked. Little less safe, but yeah, I remember working with this kind of thing so badly. Oh my fucking god, why? It is insane. And is that soft? Additives, automatic dosing feed and fill up, and softeners in rubber. Oh yeah, this is the vulcanization, where it's we'll also cool it down. Kool-Aid, we like to call it. Let's see, marking. Yeah, I mean, you have we didn't always do that, because we had like etiquettes in identification we put on the pallets. But sometimes we did that. We had a little, well, some companies demanded that, so of course. And there is the vulcanization. It also cools down the rubber, and well, emulsion is even called. Yeah, it's helping to cool down as well. And this is where because then you're going in through a cooling racket. You have big fans in a long line, like cooling it down, and it's noisy as fuck. And then you have an ending station, which I worked often at as well, where it would generally, well, like air cooling, yeah. Why? Okay, that's a little bit different from what I have seen. Okay, they have an well, cutting it down, and that is some, oh god, I can say right away, that kind of rubber is pain in the ass to put on a pallet, because as you can see, it's very hard, very stiff. And some rubbers are very soft, even after cooling down. There was one that was so fucking soft, it was like fudge. As soon as it got into the racket, because, you know, it's in, as you can imagine, it's on like bars, and it's moving, and it hangs down. That is why it's bent like that. But this fucking rubber was so soft that it like instantly, but so we couldn't even have it on the cooling racket. So as soon as it got out, we just like took it right away from the cooling racket and onto a pallet, because it was like fucking melting. That was the craziest thing ever. And there's different ways this could end up in, but yeah, it is crazy how it is kind of fascinating in a way, but fuck me, man. That was my very first job, and the job I worked longest at, and it was not very pleasant. Good people, well, most of them. Some were fucking assholes, and some were just insane. I had multiple damages. I think I got 2 concussions working there. One from actually rubber, as you could see before, when it transferred the rubber over to the other side. In one of the other mills we had was a transport van above us, and someone literally shouted, and because I was helping, we were 2 others. Normally it's 1 person there, but we were 2 extra, because this rubber was so hard and so dense, and we were helping out there. And then someone shouted, "Look out!" And in Sweden we say "se upp," which literally means look up. like a warning, like look out. But being the idiot I literally did look up. I was like, what? And got rubber in my face. It shattered my glasses. I got a minor concussion, and it was shit, man. Oh my god. But yeah, so that was my very first job, and it was dirty, it was filthy, and it's a miracle I didn't hurt myself more than I did, and it was no wonder it was shut down, because the safety regulations was awful, and yeah, it was pretty bad. So, but I went over to another job that wasn't so exciting. So after I had worked with the rubber factory and all of that, I was looking for another job. And while I was looking, I did end up working with this for a week only, because there was a store called Biltema, literally translated to Carfi. And it's a store that sells like all sorts of things, like car stuff, obviously, but also like for the vacation home, boats, clothes. They're selling like a lot of stuff. And this was a week before it was opening, so it was not in the store per se, but you know, helping putting up like all of this shelves, putting up the items and all of that. It was goddamn, it was so stressful because it was so much running back and forth, putting up stuff, finding where they were gonna be. It was so crazy, and it was kind of interesting though, but very stressful. And I was hoping to get a job there afterwards, but sadly I didn't get that. Though the thing that stressed me out most with this though was I was one of 4 or 5 that was asked to work 2 extra days. Instead of just these 7 days normally, we got 2 extra days, which was nice because you got a little bit extra money. And it was the opening days. We was gonna be there on the opening day to help guide people and in you know, the parking lot, because you know, new big store opening, excited, and it was the worst thing ever. Holy crap. So many people working there, because this store, well, the town itself isn't that big. It's placed in a location where it's just having a lot of traffic going through, and it was smacked fucking, oh, it was insane. And the worst was the weather was so fucking shitty because, you know, it had been snowing a lot, so that it was just slush everywhere. My shoes was wet. It was a fucking mess. We worked from like 10 to 6. It was just it was awful. Holy crap. And one of my co-workers that was, well, called in like I was hit by car like 3 times. Luckily it was not like serious, but you know, it kind of pissed them off. But yeah, this was I was working for 1 week, just putting up shelves and putting up items, and then I worked like in the car park for 2 days. Nothing grand, and honestly, I don't miss that job at all. So a little while after working in the store, I did get a job at an box manufacturer that were doing boxes like this, you know, for food, for well, medical equipment, in general, smaller things that you will find in store and stuff like that. And it is a lot of work because that little factory did actually everything from designs to coloring and printing and cutting out, and then of course putting these boxes together. And when you think about it, every box you have, for example, I'm gonna take this one. Now of course it's literally, you know, well, put together like this, but when you get it, it's full together, so you can just, you know, open it up and you get a full box. And this is how it looks before it's glued together, and that was where I mainly worked with. I was generally in the back line when everything had been glued and put in the boxes, and it was done pretty much. It was a stressful work, and it's probably the job I hate the most because it was just a very bad place. The boss were just such major assholes, and there was a reason that 12 people quit in a 12-month span. Pretty much 1 per month just quit because it was just hell. So we're gonna check this out. Here they have burger box erecting machines. Nice. And yeah, this is literally how it's stacked. And I can tell you right away, it doesn't look much, but these edges are super sharp. You have no idea. I was working, I had like these very thin gloves, because garden gloves, because the company didn't buy any better gloves, and we were doing these boxes, white little boxes for medical equipment, so it needed to be very clean, very sterile, and all of that, you know. And they were completely white. And I was like loading into this machine because it was going super fast when we going at full speed. And I started noticing, like, why are there like pink like marks on these boxes? Weren't they supposed to be white? And then I realized it was blood, my blood, because my gloves had been cut open and it had cut into my fingertips, and I didn't notice it because they were so fine cuts. Well, when I noticed it, I started to feel like, ah, it was like paper cut supreme. It fucking sucked, and it was blood all over these fucking boxes. It was just whoops. So that was a mess. It's just really, yeah. So it's going through this conveyor belt where it's gluing and it's folding. It go through like different. It's nothing like general machine parts itself. It's like literally just going and then it folds itself. You just adjust different parts to make it folded. So I'm kind of curious because this machine looks quite a bit different than the one I used. Oh yeah, this is definitely a bit different because this is well, yeah, food box, so it's quite a bit different. But you're getting the general idea. Hello there. That you have this machine because the one I used was pretty much longer because it went through this system. Like there could be a little bar poking out, so the box like flipped a little bit, so it, you know, it turned and twisted the sides you needed to. And then of course you put glue in. I had a glue machine in the machine that like pointed out, and yeah, it was really stressful and I hated that job. Mostly because, as I said, the boss was bad, it was stressful, I got a lot of shit, and even if I wasn't even a completely employee, you know, I was still just partly employed. The vacation came around and it forced me to take control over one of these machines with someone that was even newer than me, that I took the responsibility over, because it was kind of insane, and yeah, it was nothing I enjoyed, and it made me feel sick, and I was home a lot, and eventually they say like, yeah, we can't have you here any longer, and I was like, you know what, I don't mind getting fired, so bye bye. Yeah, I didn't miss that job at all. It wasn't good at all, my god. So after about 6 months at that boxing kind of job, I was unemployed for about 5 months, I think. I did kind of walk around trying to get the new job, but it wasn't easy because, you know, it's generally never easy. And especially since my mental health had been tanking, I didn't know about the mental health things back then as I do now, but yeah, they were already very underlying there, and I had no idea. And eventually, though, I did get a chance to join and study an intensive course for about 3 months in something called CNC. And CNC is computer, I don't remember what the CNC stood for, it's just computer control nanomachine, no, not nanomachines, not that cool. But it is involving working with, like you can see, a modern CNC lathe turning machines, which involve lots of like advanced programming and advanced knowledge about steel work and all of that stuff. Because all the things you have in like cars, the little parts in many machines, is done like this, through these kind of machines. Very fascinating, but also very stressful works. But it was interesting to learn, to be honest. And I did kind of like it, but the problem was that the 2 jobs I had, because I was in 2 different factories. The first one was simply, well, it was stressful, but and eventually they kind of, well, they fired 2 of us. I was one of them because I was one of the newest, the 2 newest, the 2 first out. And that fucking company was very shitty, because they told the workers, well, we need to cut some people out, but if you all like lower your salaries by 20%, we don't need to fire anyone. And they were like, the workers were all, yeah, of course we cut our. They actually agreed to that, but eventually some people were still fired, so it was just very shitty and very fucking bad. And then I joined another company that working with this. I'm gonna wait. We can start so you can actually see. Yeah, these machines is very advanced because they actually have 2 different parts working. Normally I was working with just one. As you can see over here, you have like these tools that go in, they cut and drill. It really cool and really advanced. But certain metals are very different, like aluminum. Aluminium is very like soft. You can work with it and it will never change its measurements at all. It's just a very nice kind of metal to work with. Then you have like hardened steel, that is a nightmare because, as I said, it's very hard. And you have bronze, that is very easy as well. It doesn't really like cause any problems. It just keeps on going. But part of being working with this is to make sure, because you need to measure. You need to measure constantly. Like if I change, we're talking tenths of a millimeter. It can cause it like, nope, now this is, it's trash. We can't send this, because some of these parts are in vehicles and stuff like that. That is so fucking like incredible, like important that they have every little bit exact measurement. So it's very rigorously like, yeah, it can't be even a tenth of a fucking millimeter, and it's fucked, and it's over, it's going out, and it is just insane. So I was working the second job with this as well, the second factory, and it was there I was eventually broken down. I was asked by a person like that talked with me, like, is there something and problem or anything like that, and I broke down. I legit cried because I was so tired. I have been it felt like I tried so much, but it never worked, and it was just a fucking, I was a mess, and I still am, but a little bit better today. Today at least I know I have problems, and I have meds, and I have help. But back then I didn't, and I was put on sick leave. And before that, even, I do remember under the winter vacation, you know, over Christmas and all that, we have 2 weeks free. I ended up going to hospital on Christmas Day because I thought I was having a heart attack. It hurt so much. It felt like my chest was bursting. I didn't know what it was. And so we went to hospital on Christmas Day and got it checked. It was no problem with my heart. It was no problem with my lungs. And eventually they said it's a severe anxiety attack. Nani? And that was part from my jobs I had and my mental health, of course. I couldn't deal with it and I just broke down. And yeah, all that is history. And yeah, but I was working with this for about 2 years together. It is, honestly, I think it's very cool because you have these machines doing such precise works. And then of course you could have like literally the tools breaking. That was the main problem that could happen, that they simply broke down. Because some of them are very hard. As you can see, this thing down here, this cutting edge, it will eventually wear down. And then the measurement will change. So you need to compensate. And if you change too much, you just need to stop and switch it. Because certain machines, we had like every 200 pieces, we stopped the machine and we changed certain bits. Because, yeah, there was no reason to continue with it and it would continue breaking. So we just did switch like that. Some we didn't need to switch more than like every 5,000. It was, yeah, and some, the worst one I saw was like every third bit, because it was so hard and so complex that it just shredded so many tools for us. And not to mention, as you can see, when the, like for example the big drill going in, if the thing is programmed wrong, which happened, you would hear shlunk, dagadunk, and it was massive fucking banging because it would just go right in. It wouldn't stop by any means. It would just go in and fucking break. It was... That happened more than once. And scared the living shit out of me. And anyone for that matter. But yeah, so... Very cool, but also very stressful because you don't run one machine. I was running 4. I had 4 different machines. Ooh, Sandvik. That was the company that we used to go to buy these pots. But yeah, so this was insanely stressful because you had 4 different machines. If you were lucky, one was some machine that kind of like just went on by its own. You didn't really need to worry about it. It just did its thing. You're just there like every 2 hours to check, like, yeah, it's not broken at least. But some machines were just fucking nightmares, and that stress just added up, and it became just too much in the end, combined with everything else in my mental health. And yeah, and that was almost my final job. My final job before working with YouTube. Well, to be honest, it was under this era working here. I started to thinking, man, I would like to do YouTube, because I was watching Markiplier back then, and I was like, man, I wish I could do this kind of stuff. It would be so fun. It would be so nice. So I did actually start with that, but of course I didn't have any income from that. It was nothing. I got no money to begin with, so I needed to find a job eventually, and I started to work with let's call it an do it everything kind of job. I won't find any videos because it was such a mixture of a job that I was sent away on different kind of jobs. The first one I was actually working with furnitures. I was helping with this little design company, putting together like sofas and chairs and stuff like that. It was kind of cool. I kind of enjoyed that. That was probably one of the better places I was at. But that was just for a few months, and then I was sent to the main base, where I was doing like all sorts of kind of things, all from like checking items. It was very like the company were using people like that were newly arrived immigrants, people that were sick like me. They were, let's say, they kind of used people, especially someone like me that otherwise was pretty good worker, because I was, and it's not like to like hype myself up, but compared to many of the others, I was very quick and I learned very fast. And as I said, I have been working with advanced machinery and industrial things my entire working career. So I was sent to many of these kind of different jobs. I worked with plastic factories. I worked with paper magazines factories, you know, that where they, you know, bundle and paper doing magazine shit. It was kind of interesting, but fuck me, I hated it. And it was also there I got my thumb stuck in a drill, which I shouldn't do. I know that, I knew that, but I have been working all day. I've been working from, well, I've been up since like 4 because I have insomnia, so I have issues sleeping, so I wake up very early. And been up working since 6 to 4, so it was a full day. And at the end of that day, it's been a long day, it had been a long week. I was having a drill, I was drilling, and I know you should never wear gloves when working with drill, because what can happen did happen. And it was that the glove got caught in the drill and pulled my thumb around that drill, and yeah, you can imagine that the drill, it's a strong drill, and my thumb was jammed around it, and it was so painful. And the worst is, you couldn't just pull it out. You needed to reverse the drill, so it was undrilling, so my thumb could, and the glove could get out, and it hurt so bad. Just thinking of that fucking hurts. And as I was sitting there, it was like 10 minutes before we quit, I was like, oh my god, it hurts so bad. Then my boss comes in like, hey Mike, can you go to Tidsam, the magazine, which is a very stressful fucking job. They needed one and we must send one. And I was like, okay, I shouldn't have said that, but I was too nice, and in the end, I was working there from 4 to 12 at the night. So I've been working from 6 to 12. I couldn't even get home because there was no buses or anything going back then that late. So I literally slept at work somewhere in a two-man couch. So it was very small. I couldn't really stretch out. My hand hurt so bad. And early that morning, next day, when the boss came, like, yeah, you need to go back to that place. And I was like, okay. I gave it 2 hours, and then after that I was like, yep, I can't work anymore. My thumb is a mess. It hurts so bad. And he took me to hospital, and they checked me, and it apparently, and I got, well, a cast on my hand because my thumb, what they call it in English, ligaments, had been stretched out really bad because of that. And it was even talk about surgery if it didn't get better. But luckily, I didn't need surgery. But I do still have a little bit of pain in that thumb at times. But yeah. And eventually, my grandmother died at this time as well. And that took me very hard. And eventually, I was let go from work because I couldn't get back into work. And since then, I have been on sick leave for about 2 years now, I think. And that is why I also work more with YouTube and streaming as well. Well, trying to at least. But as I mentioned in other videos, my mental health have been shit at times. But yeah, so these are the jobs I've been working with before I, well, really focused mainly on YouTube and streaming and all of that. So yeah, now you know a little bit about my past and what I've been working with. Nothing grand, just factory works, big old oaf with that. But yeah, but what have you been working with? And what, as I mentioned, what is the worst job you had? Hopefully you haven't had the worst one, but most of us do. And what is your dream job? So write in the comments. So thank you for watching. See you later.